I was a smidge tempted to go do some trolling over in the Eagles subreddit, but I chose not to. I was the bigger man. I made a good decision for myself personally and to keep Broncos fans looking good. Speaking of, how are we doing on this Victory Monday evening? Broncos country, beautiful day after a Broncos win. Of course, the skies are orange and blue. Whatever deity you believe in's favorite colors. My name is Miles Smith, and tonight I will be guiding you through a couple of little tidbits about the Broncos coming off of this victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to get into Ben Powers' injury and what that means for the Broncos going forward. We are going to see how the Broncos can ride this momentum, also going forward after this massive victory, what this means, all of that. And then we're going to give the schedule a little bit of a glance ahead, see what we can figure out from that. So don't go anywhere. You are watching Crushin' It. All right, so first, tonight, we got to get a little bit of negative news out of the way. Ben Powers did not make the trip to London with the Denver Broncos. Reported by Mike Kliss of 9 News, he will be out for roughly 2 months with a biceps injury. Broncos hoping to get him back in December. He is going to go on injured reserve for the time being, and that's a huge blow to the Broncos offensive line. Of course, Ben Powers has been just an absolute brick wall there at left guard. Forrest started pretty much every game since we signed him as a free agent. I can't remember a start that Ben Powers missed. Probably because there were any issues on the left side of the offensive line, and if there were, they were rare. Ben Powers has been one of the biggest pieces of the Broncos run game, and it feels like almost every time you see a big run spring, especially on that left side, it's Ben Powers shoving his D lineman out and then getting to that second level, and it's run blocking is something that Ben Powers has done pretty well in. I haven't been able to really single him out on anything, and of course, I'm a broke little boy, so I can't really afford all the PFF fancy things, but the eye test says, at the very least, that Ben Powers has been a very good offensive lineman for the goddamn Denver Broncos. God, I'm losing my touch here, losing my voice. So in that scenario, now that we're staring down the current scenario, now comes the discussion of who is going to replace Ben Powers on the offensive line? And I think there's 2, maybe 3 real candidates here for a guy that's going to come in and replace him. Now, immediately my mind is going to go up to Alex Palczewski. He's been the Broncos' 6th offensive lineman. They brought him in a number of jumbo packages, and it feels like it should be the natural transition for him. He's kind of just that swing offensive lineman. You can throw him, plug him, play him wherever the hell you need to. And I definitely think that in this scenario, given that Palczewski has had live playtime this season, wherever on the offensive line he's come in, I definitely think Alex Palczewski is your leading candidate to take that spot. I also believe he is the backup, just straight up backup on the depth chart there. So Alex Palczewski, I imagine, is probably going to be taking those snaps at left guard, but you got a couple of other candidates, too, that, of course, bring their own skills to the table. Swing tackle Matt Peart is a guy that the Broncos have held on to for a good couple of years now, and for good reason. He's decent offensive tackle depth for the most part. He's had to fill in spots over the last couple of years, and he hasn't looked terrible. He hasn't been great, obviously. He's a backup. But Matt Peart's not a bad option. And then on the other side of that, too, a guy that has seen a little bit of discussion lately just because of Luke Wattenberg's play at center. You've got Alex Forsyth, of course. Broncos fans know that name for the wrong reason. He was the guy that gave up the blocked field goal in Kansas City last season. Bit of a diabolical play there, but I think Forsyth on his own, if you look outside of that play, because that play just kind of exists in a vacuum, really. One bad play does not define a career, but it definitely defines the perception of a guy. But I think is it Alex? Whatever. I think Forsyth also has a chance to get some snaps here, because really now, if Palczewski is going to move up, that opens up that 6th offensive lineman spot. And I definitely think we could see the Broncos try a combination of different guys there. And I certainly think that Forsyth has a chance to be that guy just because he kind of is that athletic guy that you can move, the athletic big man that can move around on an offensive line that you can get in motion, kind of in a Trent Williams type of role, or however the Broncos were using Palczewski. So I definitely think that's probably going to be something they do. Of course, I could be totally wrong. They could start Adam Troutman at left guard for all I fucking know. Who cares? No, but really, I do think it's going to be Alex Palczewski that's going to get that jump up into that starting left guard role for the next 2 months. Whether or not the Broncos' run game is going to take a hit, that's kind of up for discussion here, because you've already got a weak link in the middle of the line there. So you throw in another weak link theoretical weak link onto the interior of the offensive line, and suddenly now something that's been a strength, especially on that left side with Mr. Powers, suddenly starts to look a little bit like a weakness. Just a little. I almost would expect to see more fullback snaps with Adam Prentice, or more of those 6 lineman looks that the Broncos have ran numerous times this season. Whatever the case, there's going to be impact, and I think it's going to kind of be a second before the Broncos are able to find their footing again, kind of in that. And maybe they don't lose their footing. Maybe I'm looking a little too far into this. I think Sean Payton's still going to be able to scheme a guy into position. I just don't be surprised if the Broncos start running the ball to the outside a little more, or if they start trying just more runs over towards Quinn Miners or and McGlinchey and those guys. It's Ben Powers is down. It's probably going to be Palczewski that steps in, long story short. That's pretty much all I got on that subject. So coming up next, we are going to talk about what this win meant for the Denver Broncos and how they can ride that momentum into further victory, into further glory going down the line. And we'll kind of intertwine that with that schedule analysis. Just look a couple of games ahead, see who's on the schedule. I'm not going to count chickens or anything. We're just going to give a couple of looks and see what we can make of it. And that's all coming up on Crushin' It. So I think it's safe to say that that fourth quarter over the Philadelphia Eagles is the type of game that turns good teams into the type of teams that can walk into any stadium in January and maybe not kick the shit out of somebody, but definitely come out on top. I definitely think that this comeback win against those Philadelphia Eagles is the type of game that is going to turn the Broncos into one of those upper echelon teams. Of course, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just some guy on the internet with a hunch. But looking at this, I mean, this is the type of game that the Broncos lose. A couple of years ago, even at the start of the Sean Payton era, whether it's with Russell Wilson or even with Bo Nix last year, in close games against winning teams like that, these are the type of games that the Denver Broncos lose. Of course, you know, the Broncos had that crazy run with Russell Wilson, but who in that stretch did they beat? The Packers and who else? The Bills on some kind of crazy plays, on some very fluky miracle plays. I mean, this is the type of signature win that the Denver Broncos have been looking for since the start of the Bo and Sean era. And it's the type of win that it just gets a guy excited, you know? It just gets you feeling a different kind of way. You can take that however you'd like it. But I definitely think that this win going forward should be the jumping off point for a Broncos team that has been starving. For a signature win that puts everybody else on notice. And I definitely think they did that on Sunday, because the Broncos proved a couple of things. They're not always out when they're down. You know, the saying, down but not out. That is what the Broncos proved on Sunday, number one. Number two, they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Even when the Broncos were at their worst during that game, they were still hanging in there with their fists up. You know, I think of the Randy Marsh picture where he's like, I ain't hear no bell or something. That's the kind of game that the Broncos played. And when this Broncos team is firing, they can hang in these games, and then they can zap back in an instant. I mean, Bo Nix went from Nathan Peterman to John Elway in the span of a quarter, you know, from the first 3 quarters to the fourth quarter, just like a light switch. Broncos running game, they were able to lean on it with J.K. Dobbins, and they were able to ride that into the sunset of Philadelphia and into the skies towards London, England. The Denver Broncos proved that they can go out and not just compete, but that they can beat whoever. They don't care if it's the defending Super Bowl champion who's supposed to pound him into the fucking sand. They don't care if it's Kansas City. Numerous times, Denver should have lost or should have beat Kansas City in the last couple of years, and I automatically think of obviously I'm gonna call it the Forsyth game, the Forsyth game, the one he let the block field goal out. You get the idea. The Denver Broncos have had the talent to hang in there these last couple of years. The Denver Broncos just didn't know how to close it out. And you want to know what they did? You want to know what they did on Sunday? They closed it out. I think this is a teaching experience for the Denver Broncos they learned how to win a close game against a good team. And I think it's the type of game that you build on, because now you look in the mirror. Now you look at that one performance, sloppy as it was, okay? Backwards as it was for 75 to 85% of the game, and you still came out on top against arguably the best team in the league. Of course, the Eagles aren't always playing like it, but talent-wise, the Eagles are fucking ridiculous. Yeah, we're past, like, the demonetization point of the video. I can say the fuck word now. I'm sure you can tell I watch a lot of Brandon Perna. Anyways, what I'm saying here is that the Denver Broncos have announced their arrival, okay? There are 2 bad moments away from a 5-0 start. Those Broncos losses were against good teams, whether their good strength was at that point in the year or whether they're still riding their momentum going forward. I mean, the Colts are so good this year, and the Chargers were looking really good until the injuries started to pile up, and the Broncos got them at mostly full strength, still didn't play their best game, and it still took a last-second field goal to fucking beat us. What I'm saying is that the Denver Broncos can go win those close games. They just did it to the best team in the league, arguably the best team in the league. You know, they are still defending champs. I'm going to beat that drum into the ground. I'm going to be annoying about this, all right? The Denver Broncos can hang, and they can bang with anybody, and wow, that sounded wrong. That sounded wrong. So, where am I going with this? Let's take a look at this Broncos schedule, okay? And yes, sadly, I have to look away from the face cam for a minute. I can't constantly maintain sexy, intimate eye contact with you because I have to do sports stuff. Broncos get the Jets in London on October 12th, so that's this upcoming Sunday. I will be calling that game. I show resilience, and then we're going to have, I probably won't drink a whole lot the night before. I don't know, the weekends are usually my drinking. Anyways, Broncos have what is on paper for sure an inferior Jets team, led by Justin Fields, and a defense that already seems checked out, man. That already just seems so checked out. And I do understand that, you know, the once or twice that the Broncos have seen Justin Fields, Fields played him really well. To be completely honest, but I don't think Aaron Glenn has that Jets locker room, man. I really don't. And the Jets, you know, in the few times that I've, tuned into a Jets game, because let's be honest, who the hell watches a Jets game? Well, I'm going to have to this weekend, but you get the idea. The Jets have just not looked good, and they looked good in that Steelers game, and that's about it. And I don't know if that's the Jets' ceiling or if that's just an indictment on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the thing is the Broncos should win that game. I'm not saying they're going to, because I'm not a guy that wants to count my chickens right now, but Denver should win that game. And the last time the Broncos went to London, they got High-Knees Wilson to win a game in the weirdest uniforms I've ever seen. So there's that. Next week, it's back home in Denver against the Giants. Giants, not a great team either. You're missing Malik Neighbors for the rest of the year. I haven't seen a lot out of Scattaboo in just the occasions I have seen him, and he's a guy that I kind of low-key hoped the Broncos could steal. Later on in the draft, they didn't. We got Harvey, and I'm happy with that pick. Let me tell you, I am very happy with the RJ Harvey pick. Giants are another very winnable game. It's the Cowboys that got me a little worried. Denver's got them at home very next week. It's a 2:25 kickoff here. They got a pair of afternoon kickoffs after the trip to London. I tell you what, Dak Prescott's playing some damn good football this year, man. Dak Prescott's playing some damn good football this year. But, this is a Broncos team that shut down the Eagles. I'm going to beat that drum because I'm using that, not as a measuring stick game, but I'm using it as a bit of a measuring stick. Come on, and it's this big. Broncos are going to play the Cowboys. Broncos always play the Cowboys well. I'm not going to really drag history into this, but the Broncos have historically embarrassed the Cowboys every time they've played them since the 1990s. I am still worried about that game, though, just because it is a very losable game for a penalty-heavy Denver Broncos. But I mean, hey, Teddy Bridgewater can do it. Why can't Bo Nix? You look forward, you got a Texans team that just blew out an injured Baltimore team. I think the Texans are a very winnable game. I think that's a game where Nick Bonito could go off for 2.5 sacks again, if not 3, because that Texans offensive line is a turnstile, and that might be being kind this season. And then just to kind of round out here going into November, you got the Raiders at home. The Raiders have been bad this season. I don't really know what's going on there. It'll be their first meeting, though. You know, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, they played some legendary games at times. So there is that. Geno Smith hasn't really been as advertised. It kind of is what it is. They're leaning heavy on Genty, but if you get the Raiders into a deficit and you got to force Geno to throw, then you are in a very favorable position. And we saw that this weekend because, my God, Indianapolis, what the hell have you done to the Vegas Raiders? And why didn't you make it hurt more? You should have put 70 on them, you fucking gutless bastards. You could have killed them. I mean, you did, but you could have made it worse. And then to round out this little stretch, after November 6th, I believe the Broncos have a bye. Then you've got Kansas City in Denver, 2:25 p.m. And with the way the Chiefs are playing so far this year, which, how are they doing on Monday night now that I am thinking about it? The Chiefs are currently playing as it stands, and they're beating the Jags 13-0. So, surprise, surprise. It's the Jags. The Jags haven't really played anybody, so it is what it is. You've got a Chiefs team that's been a little weaker this year, who really only have Xavier Worthy, which I think Pat Surtain has the speed to back him up, and if he doesn't, you've got safeties that you can put on the back end. Every team is going to play the 2-high shell against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos have a very winnable stretch, and if they can springboard off of the momentum of the Eagles game, really off of the fourth quarter of the Eagles game, I definitely think they can go 4-2 in this stretch, if not 5-1. It's a very, very compelling thing, but of course, the Broncos have to go out and execute. I'm not counting my chickens before they lay their eggs. I'm not even counting the eggs that I have in the basket right now. I just think that this Broncos team is very capable of doing more, and that Eagles game gives me the hope to say that. So that's where I'm going to cut this episode off tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, go check out my post-game analysis that I did last night. There will be a link on the end of the screen thing. And if you like gaming videos, well, have I got the channel for you. Just recently, I have started a channel under the Crushin' It moniker just for playing video games that is called Crushin' Games with Miles Smith. I think you'll enjoy it. I got a couple of Sonic Crossworlds videos up there already. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Keep crushing it, Broncos country. Let's go. Victory Monday, baby.